I never thought a Tuesday morning could slam the brakes on my whole life. But that's what happened the day Emily asked if I'd come with her to the new relationship resilience circle she'd found on TikTok. We'd been together 9 years, married for 4, living in a craftsman-style house outside Denver that we'd gutted and rebuilt with our own hands. Every shiplap plank, every run of copper, every Saturday sunk into Home Depot sawdust. Lately, though, things felt as if someone had swapped the light bulbs for cold LEDs. The same shapes, just harsher. Emily said the circle met on Thursday nights, right after I got off my software dev shift. It's super low-key, she promised, brushing drywall dust from my shoulder like she still cared. No one judges. Couples just talk. The room turned out to be the basement of a suburban Unitarian church, the kind that smells like burnt coffee and kindergarten glue sticks. 15 chairs sat in a ring around a crocheted tissue box cover. We were the last to arrive, and every head lifted as I pushed through the folding door. At first I figured it was because Emily looked like the kind of woman who makes strangers wonder what influencer account she runs. Caramel hair, white-knuckle smile, plaid jacket. But the surprise in their eyes felt sharper, like they'd all just recognized the villain in a Netflix docuseries. A man about my age strode over in red Converse, introducing himself as Dr. Logan Grant. He had the breezy confidence of someone who drinks sparkling water at baseball games. "Jason, right?" he said before I even offered my hand. "My name isn't on any sign-up sheet," I thought. "Glad you could make it." He guided Emily to the seat beside a plump salt lamp, then placed me directly across from her, an ocean of carpet between 2 folding chairs. When he spoke, it was always to me, never her. "Jason, what do you think your wife is really asking for when she says she's exhausted?" All the other couples watched like we were a bonus episode tacked onto their own drama. I answered because I didn't want to look like the guy who refuses help. But the whole time, Emily kept her gaze pinned to her boots, lips twitching with an emotion I couldn't read. Logan steered the dialogue with unsettling precision, referencing private moments no one outside our walls should know. How Emily cried on our trip to Breckenridge when I wouldn't post us on Instagram. How we argued about having kids after her sister's baby shower. By the 5th reference, my pulse drummed so loud I barely heard my own voice. I glanced around the circle, hoping someone else saw how weird this was, but they only nodded sagely, tissues poised. When the hour ended, Logan clapped, thanked everyone, and reminded us to bring any necessary paperwork next week in case we wanted to formalize agreements. On the drive home, Emily stared out the window, humming along to the radio like nothing had happened. The next Thursday, I told myself I'd keep my mouth shut and just observe. Emily squeezed my fingers in the parking lot and whispered, "Thank you for trying." Inside, the seating had changed. 2 chairs up front, therapist style, facing the ring. Emily perched in one. Logan invited me to the other. He opened a manila folder already stuffed with legal-looking documents. "I thought we might streamline things," he said, sliding a stapled packet toward me. A quitclaim deed that would move our house solely into Emily's name in exchange for appropriate equitable considerations. My stomach lurched. The circle's couples leaned in, popcorn ready, as if we were lesson material. I turned to Emily, but she kept her attention fixed on Logan. He began reading aloud from a typed narrative of our relationship. Only it wasn't just facts, it was a prosecution brief. My marathon work weeks, my emotional unavailability, my weaponized optimism whenever she voiced doubts. Each phrase was something Emily had said to me in the dark, thinking no one else could hear. That's when it clicked. She hadn't found this group, she'd built it. Or rather, Logan had, on her behalf. He wasn't just a therapist, he was her friend, maybe more, rehearsing a stage play designed to shove me off my own front porch. My breath started hitching, so I focused on my smartwatch's heart rate graph. Geek therapy. Meanwhile, Logan asked the group whether a partner who refuses to relinquish the marital asset after failing to nurture the marriage is acting from love or control. Everyone murmured, "Control," like a congregation reciting liturgy. Emily still wouldn't meet my eyes, but a faint blush spread across her cheeks, the shade she gets when she unwraps a secret Christmas gift early. I could have yelled, could have flipped the folding table and stormed out. Instead, I did the thing no reality TV audience wants. I went still. I pressed the record button on my phone, slid it face down beneath my knee, and let Logan keep talking. Let him outline our irreconcilable values. Let the circle nod. Let the printer in the corner spit out signature pages. I answered only in monosyllables until he, confident, handed me a pen. I signed where he indicated, every line, every initial. Logan's grin bloomed like a stoplight, turning green. Emily exhaled a tremulous sigh. As soon as the last page fluttered onto the stack, I thanked everyone for their time, pocketed my phone, and walked out into the Colorado night. I didn't go home. I drove to the 24-hour FedEx on Colfax, copied every document, and sealed the originals into an envelope addressed to Logan's office. The copies went into another envelope alongside my USB drive loaded with the full-length audio of the session, labeled for my attorney. I slept 3 hours in a Motel 6, fluorescent buzz outside the window, until the sunrise turned the Front Range clouds watercolor pink. Then I shaved, put on the suit I'd worn to our wedding, and headed downtown to meet the lawyer I'd found on Reddit's r/legal advice, someone who said, in Colorado, a setup like that violates every standard of therapeutic ethics. The lawyer, Samantha Reed, all blazer-sharp lines and espresso intensity, barely blinked as she scrolled through the deed Logan had pressured me to sign. "This is fraud dressed up in sage-scented self-help," she muttered, snapping photos of each page with a document scanner app. I told her everything. The circle, the unasked for therapy, the strangers nodding on cue. Samantha's face hardened the way granite does when winter hits it. "You've got leverage," she said, tapping the USB drive I'd slid across her desk. "Colorado's licensing board loves audio like this. They'll bury him. And if Logan turns out to have a personal relationship with your wife, the malpractice angle gets juicier." I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I tasted battery acid. All I could picture was Emily's eyes drifting away every time I tried to share a small triumph. The day my code refactor sliced server costs in half. The Sunday I finally nailed Grandma's chili recipe. Somewhere between those moments, she'd slipped out a secret door and left me talking to a houseplant. Samantha scheduled an emergency injunction to freeze any property transfer, then told me to lie low and answer only numbers-based questions, the kind juries love. Dates. Bank totals, miles on the Subaru. I drove back to our neighborhood at dusk, headlights striping the cul-de-sac. The porch light was off, even though Emily hates the dark. Inside, the house felt vacuum-sealed. No cooking smells, no phone chargers coiled on the couch. Half her side of the closet was gone, hangers swinging like empty gallows. On the dresser sat a single envelope marked Jason in her looping handwriting. I'd imagined a tear-stained apology, but the note was 2 sentences. "I'm staying at Logan's until things calm down. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." Beneath the words lay her wedding band, still warm from her skin. The shock was physical. A punch behind the sternum. I sank onto the edge of the bed we'd built from reclaimed oak, remembering how the planks had fought our drill bits, how we'd laughed when the frame finally squared. My mind cycled strange trivia. The mortgage auto-pay date, her iced coffee order, the fact that our Wi-Fi still registered her phone. That last spark hit like jumper cables. If Emily had boxed up her life in half a day, chances were she'd forgotten some digital footprints. I opened my laptop, logged into our shared router dashboard, and found her device connected from Logan's address. A couple clicks later, I tunneled into our old Nest Cam account, the one she swore was useless after we switched to Ring. The feed popped up black, but the audio channel crackled alive. Murmured voices, Emily's laugh, Logan saying, "Once the press release is out, he'll have no ground." Press release? My palms went ice numb as I realized how deep their script ran. Logan didn't just want the house, he wanted a public redemption arc. Therapist rescues damsel from neglectful coder. In an age of viral therapists, one TikTok confession could land him book deals. I downloaded everything, dumped it in a cloud drive Samantha could access, then slammed the laptop shut before the live feed carved permanent grooves in my brain. Instead, I walked to the garage. Hanging above the workbench was the cedar box Emily had gifted me our first Christmas. J+E burned into the lid. I clenched it, half expecting it to burst into ash in my hands, but cedar is stubborn. By midnight, I'd packed 2 duffel bags, one with essentials, one with proof. As I locked the front door, I paused, listening for the house to tell me something. A creak, a sigh, a last-minute objection. Nothing. So I left a sticky note on the kitchen island. House in escrow. Talk to my attorney. Followed by Samantha's number. That was the first boundary I'd drawn in years that didn't crumble. The second, Emily frowned. I crashed on a friend's pullout north of Boulder, waking to a barrage of texts. Emily pleading for private discussion, Logan's number flashing unknown calls, and a single voicemail from an unlisted source, Breckenridge Gazette, requesting comment on allegations of emotional abuse made by local couples therapist Dr. Logan Grant. I replayed the message twice, each time feeling the narrative harden like wet cement. I was now the villain in their love brand story. Samantha answered on the first ring. They're moving faster than I thought, she said, already typing. Good news? Moving that fast gets sloppy. Bad news? We've got 48 hours before their version cements. Her plan was brutal. File a formal ethics complaint and a temporary restraining order preventing Logan from publishing anything that referenced me or Emily pending litigation. We're going to flip the script, she said. You'll be the one holding therapy to account. I spent the day drafting a sworn statement, each memory like hauling rocks, the circle's rehearsed empathy, the quitclaim ambush, the secondary nest fee. While I typed, Emily sent 2 more messages, each one shorter than the last, ending with, "Please, Jay, just let it go." Those 4 words, so gentle, so dismissive, finally uncorked the anger I'd been bottling behind politeness. Let it go? I'd let go of weekends, hobbies, half my paycheck to remodel a home she now wanted deeded over like a pair of old skis. That night, Samantha filed everything. The clerk stamped a hearing date, 2 weeks out, and overnighted summonses to Logan and Emily. Court-verified reality, carved into schedule. I stared at that date, July 3rd, the eve of fireworks, the same day we'd first met at a 4th of July barbecue a decade ago. Symmetry can be cruel, but it's also clarifying. I turned off my phone, stepped onto my friend's deck, and watched the mountains swallow the last orange scraps of sunset. The sky looked like cooling lava, and for the first time since that basement circle, I breathed without counting heartbeats. Somewhere in downtown Denver, Logan was probably rehearsing statements about trauma-informed intervention. Emily practicing watery glances for the inevitable camera. They had the script, but I had the raw footage, unfiltered, uncut, undeniable. And in 2 weeks, a judge would watch the same performance that had cracked my marriage open, only this time under fluorescent courtroom lights instead of Himalayan salt glow. I whispered to no one, "See you on stage." The restraining order landed on Logan's porch the next morning like a brick wrapped in legalese. By noon, he'd gone live on Instagram anyway, pacing his tastefully minimalist living room, camera held just below chin height so followers could admire the reclaimed oak beams I recognized. Lumber Emily and I had hauled from an estate sale 3 summers ago. A vindictive spouse is trying to silence a survivor's truth, he intoned, eyes glistening with the kind of humidity ring lights can't fake. Comments scrolled like ticker tape. "We believe you, Dr. Grant. Expose toxic masculinity." Samantha texted me a link, then the single word, "good." The contempt violation meant Logan had just gift-wrapped us fresh evidence of bad faith. That night I didn't sleep. I coded, because that's what my brain does when everything else is chaos. I built a simple site, couplescirclefacts.com, white background, black type, no ads, no pop-ups. At the top I embedded the full, unedited audio from the basement session, sans commentary. Below it, scanned screenshots of Emily's note, copies of the quitclaim deed, a link to the public ethics complaint. No rage, no name-calling, just timestamps and context. At dawn I sent the URL to Samantha, then shut my laptop and drove into the foothills, letting switchbacks untangle my nerves. Cell reception dropped to 0, giving me blessed silence for 3 hours. When I rolled back into coverage, my phone ignited. Friends, coworkers, reporters, even my mom who shares cat memes and nothing else. The site had rocketed across Reddit's r/best of like a lit firework. Turns out people love receipts more than they love hot take sermons. Someone spliced Logan's Instagram live with my raw audio, creating a side-by-side fact versus fiction clip that racked up 500,000 views before lunch. Samantha rang, laughing for the first time since we met. "We just got a settlement offer," she said. "They want to vacate the deed transfer, pay your legal fees, and issue a mutual non-disparagement." Part of me wanted to leap at the lifeboat and be done. But another part, the part that had walked out of that circle in silence, knew a private payoff would keep Logan free to spin fresh webs. I asked Samantha what happened if we refused. Then we see them in court Tuesday, she answered, and the licensing board hearing Thursday. It'll be public record. I told her to decline. She whistled low. All right, Jason, let's make case law. Emily broke the radio silence an hour later. 46 unread messages bloomed while I was comparing yogurt brands in the grocery aisle. The gist: she was shocked at my vindictiveness, afraid I'd ruined 2 careers, begging me to think of the positive years. The digital chime of nostalgia, our wedding song, attached as an audio file. I stood there between organic Greek and vanilla custard, trying to match the voice in those messages with the woman who once danced barefoot on our subfloor as we sanded it smooth. I finally texted back one line: "Truth isn't vindictive." Then I powered the phone off again, paid for yogurt, and went home to my friend's basement-level guest room, smelling of cedar chips and ambition. Court Tuesday felt like stepping onto a movie set where the extras forgot their blocking. The judge, silver-haired and unsmiling, opened by playing my audio on tinny speakers to establish foundation. Logan's attorney objected, invasion of privacy, but the judge overruled. Colorado's one-party consent laws are crisp. When Emily took the stand, her mascara already smudged, I expected lava. Instead, I saw a glacier cracking. Every time Logan's lawyer pressed her to describe my controlling behavior, she glanced toward the gallery where Logan sat, notebook in hand like a study hall monitor. Her answers shrank from declarative to hesitant. I guess I felt overlooked. The prosecutor pounced, threading her contradictions with the audio where Logan spoon-fed her phrasing. By recess, murmurs rippled through the benches. Is this coercion? The judge didn't drag it out. He voided the deed, issued a cease and desist on any further therapeutic contact between Logan and former clients pending the board's decision, and scheduled a damages hearing. Logan's jaw worked like a stuck gear. Emily stared at her hands as if they belonged to someone who'd committed the signatures. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was hollow exhaustion. Betrayal isn't a clean cut. It's a slow leak. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Samantha handled statements while I kept my gaze on the marble steps, counting veins in the stone to stay grounded. Emily approached, flanked by a PR handler I remembered from Logan's Instagram stories. "Can we talk?" she asked. Voice the soft burr of the girl who'd once explained why thunderstorms scared her. For a heartbeat, I almost said yes. But the handler's clipboard caught the sun, reflecting a glare the exact shade of opportunism, and the moment passed. "My lawyer will communicate," I replied. "Take care, Em." The handler steered her away, whispering crisis management script into her ear. 2 days later, the licensing board yanked Logan's credentials in a 5-minute vote streamed live on YouTube. Comments erupted like a Roman candle finale. Sponsors dropped him before the feed even ended. Someone spotted him clearing his office after hours, cardboard boxes stacked in those red Converse. I spent July 3rd, not in court for once, driving to the house I'd nearly lost. Sun bleached the lawn a tired gold, and realtor lockbox code still dangled from the porch rail, forgotten in the scramble. Inside, half-empty rooms echoed. I walked from wall to wall, palm-grazing surfaces we'd once sanded and painted together. The silence felt bigger than betrayal. It felt like reset. On the kitchen island, I set my own envelope, a cashier's check covering the next 6 months of mortgage, plus a note to myself: "Finish what you start." That night, fireworks popped across Denver, red and white bursts reflecting off windows I'd installed one sweaty May weekend. I dragged a camp chair to the driveway, cracked a seltzer, and watched streaks paint the sky. Neighbors cheered distant booms. Kids chased sparklers. My phone buzzed with texts, coworkers sending memes of therapists gone rogue, Reddit strangers thanking me for receipts culture. I muted the notifications and lifted the can toward the explosions. For the first fourth in a decade, I wasn't anyone's husband, project partner, or narrative villain. I was just a guy in a folding chair, under an honest sky, finally owning the quiet.